Ladies and gentlemen, again, a very good morning. I am incredibly happy to see so many people showing up today for this presentation and this workshop on how to deal with all these international tendencies and how can you as Russian companies can base your strategy on that, and how can you mitigate these risks and these tendencies. We were, to be honest, we were absolutely unsure how this would work out. In the beginning, we thought perhaps we would have 60 people here. And look at how many people we have now. I also need to apologize because it can happen that we don't have enough beer aids or a gift bag, but we need to apologize for that. It's also a very good reason to organize this again next year, together with the ACCA, and then we will do it even better. And again, we will have more people. That's how we go. So thank you again very much for coming here. First of all, I want to thank the people from HLB International. We have many people from HLB International here as well. That is our part of our member firm. And if it would be okay, if you would all be willing to stand up. So our people from HLB, thank you very much for coming. They came from Cyprus, from the Netherlands, from the UK, from the US, from Italy, and many other places to be here and to be part of this conference. So again, thank you very much for coming. Secondly, I want to thank the ACCA for being involved in this program and your fantastic work in bringing all your members here together. So thank you very much for the ACCA. But obviously and especially I want to thank all of you who have taken the time to be here. I know we are all incredibly busy. These are challenging times, but once in a while you need to be able, especially in our business where it's all about finance and reporting, and we all know how important that is. But sometimes you need to be able to step back a little bit and look at what is happening around you in order to be ready for next year. Most of you are going into your budgeting cycle now again for next year, but you need to be able to step aside once in a while and think about what is going to happen in the future. It's very difficult, I realize that, and we see all these tendencies internationally, but we need to be able to make sense out of that and to understand what the implications that will have for your business. That is what we are trying to do today. The way how we're going to do that is the following. First of all, we have some small introductions from people who are important for us. That will take about 1 minute. Then we will have 4 presentations of 20 minutes each. I will be the facilitator, which also means I'm the timekeeper. And I'm from the Netherlands, and we are very good in keeping time. So don't worry, it will be definitely not longer than 20 minutes each. But it is important that our presenters will be able to give you that information. So this is a little bit more information exchange, but it is important because afterwards, after these 4 presentations, we will have a panel discussion. And that is your moment, obviously. That is where if you are having any questions on the topics we have discussed about what is happening in the US at the moment, what is happening in the UK at the moment, what's happening in China at the moment, and what's happening in Europe at the moment, and what are the consequences for my business. That is the discussion we want to have during the panel discussions. And we have very knowledgeable panel members, and they will be very happy to share their thoughts with you. And perhaps, I hope, in the end, we can have a kind of takeaways for all of you, where you would say, it doesn't matter what business you are in, it doesn't matter what, how big or how small your company is, internationally or not internationally, but this is something which we need to do starting from now. So I hope it will be very productive for you this morning. The plan is it will finalize at 1:30, and I think that will be perhaps the most important part of these kind of conferences is meeting other people. So we have a coffee break as well in between, and use that coffee break especially also to meet with our people from HLB. They are there to help you. So if you have any questions, please do. And if you would like to have introductions, if you have business in Italy and you would like me to introduce to our people in Italy, then of course we can help. And I will help you. So thank you again. Thank you very much for coming. And now I want to give. Yeah, okay. I want to give the floor to our chairman.
Thank you, Gerard. Very good morning to everybody. Thank you, first of all, our colleagues from HLB members firm. It's very important that you're coming today to our event. And thank you a lot. Thank you, our colleagues, partners from ACCA. I think it's the job what they make. It's very important for our profession. It makes this much more quality for us and bring us in the highest level as possible. Yeah? Thank you, Dave and Marco, that you always support us in all our activities, and thanks a lot. It's very important for us that you joined today us. And thanks to everybody. And I believe that it will be a very good conference today. I wish all of us good work, and I'm sure that we will receive a lot of opportunities, some ideas, strategic ideas could be here. Thank you and good work for us. Thank you.
The next person for the small introductions is our CEO from our international office in London, Marco.
Thank you, Gerard. So, good morning, everybody. It is my great pleasure to be here at this wonderful event. So, this definitely gives us the opportunity at HLB to know a little bit more about the business climate in Russia and how we can establish more relationship with Russian companies. HLB is now growing as one of the major advisory networks in the world, with a global combined turnover of $2.2 billion, presence in 150 countries, just to show the power of a global network like us. On the top of that, we are really proud of our ability to serve cross-border clients, especially large clients. And in particularly, I'd like to stress out that we have 20 Russian desks globally to serve big, large, and Russian corporations. So our key point is also our ability as a network across different countries to serve clients internationally and to show this commitment to help our member firms, our countries grow, and their clients as they grow internationally. Again, we are here with over 20 countries represented from HLB. So this gives you an idea of our commitment towards international business, and in particular towards Russian companies. So on the top of that, I would like that among these companies there are some of the major investors, the major FDI players, the major players of trade, such as Germany, Netherlands, among others. But again, we are really, really happy to be here with all of you. And I would like to also thank Gerard, Mikhail, Victoria for putting this together, this wonderful event, ACCA, for their participation, everybody who is come here at this event to join us with HLB. And now maybe I would like to introduce our chairman so that also he can give a big welcome to this wonderful crowd.
Thank you, Marco. My pleasure really to be with you this morning. This is a fantastic crowd. I'm very pleased to be here with our friends from HLB Energy, Michael, Gerard, Victoria. They're excellent hosts for us, a great HLB member. We all work very closely together. Also, our thanks to ACCA, a great organization which helps promote our whole profession. My firm is called Bailey in the U.S. We're the largest member, actually, of HLB. Together with our friends from Witham, Dave Springsteen, we represent two of the largest mid-tier firms in the U.S., well-positioned to help international clients with international opportunities. Just a word about our people. Our clients expect us to have high quality, which we do. They expect us to have the talent and expertise, which we do. A lot of our specialists have come out of Big Four firms. They have found a much better fit with our type of firm, our service, and our value proposition that we have. But my international clients tell me the experience with HLB members is different. It's like their partners down the hall, not across the world. We all know each other very well. We get together quite frequently. We help each other. We trust each other, and our clients trust us to really help them realize international opportunities, international growth and profit. And I think today we're going to have some very, very interesting stories about those opportunities and how to realize those. So again, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
Thank you, Dave, and again, thank you for taking the time and effort to come from the US and be present here. Thank you very much. I'm going to this side of the room now, and I want to give the microphone to Vera Stella-Dutseva from the ACCA.
Уважаемые коллеги, участники сегодняшнего семинара, я позволю себе говорить по-русски. У всех есть помощники для перевода. Давайте, раз HLB вставали, а мы ACCA поднимем руки. Сколько нас сегодня? Да, мы ACCA, да? Очень рада, конечно, я рада приветствовать и членов ACCA, и всех участников сегодняшнего семинара. Как вы знаете, для тех, кто не знает, ACCA — это глобальная профессиональная ассоциация, объединяющая специалистов во всем мире. Мы присутствуем в 180 странах, поэтому, конечно, тема, которая обсуждается сегодня, она для ACCA не менее актуальна, чем для всех остальных. В 90 странах у нас есть офисы, но вы будете удивлены, что в России у нас 2500 членов ACCA. Это те, кто полностью закончил свою квалификацию и являются активными членами. Вы удивитесь, узнав, что в мире мы находимся, по членству мы находимся на 11 или 12 месте. Это на самом деле огромная цифра. Это говорит о том, что мы очень сильная организация в России, не говоря уже о мире. Одной из наших задач как локального офиса, как представительства ACCA в России, является помощь в непрерывном профессиональном развитии наших членов. И когда я говорю с нашими коллегами, партнерами, говорю о том, что мы организуем 3 серьезных мероприятия для наших членов каждый месяц, я вижу в глазах удивление. На самом деле, удивление, естественно, это очень много. Многие из вас посещают нас регулярно, другие выбирают темы, которые наиболее актуальны. Мы все время находимся в плотном взаимодействии с членами и узнаем, что интересно, что востребовано. Всех интересных спикеров, которых я знаю и встречаю, я стараюсь привести и показать нашему сообществу. По сути, мы делаем семинары, мастер-классы, конференции на технические темы, либо на развитие профессиональных навыков. Кто-то группы называет soft skills, да, это не совсем так, но профессиональные навыки. Что мы увидели в последнее время, что действительно тема, которая обсуждается сегодня, она так или иначе появляется и всплывает. То есть мы живем в неизолированном сообществе, и не только актуально то, что прикладное, да, иногда, независимо от того, работаете в международной компании, в российской компании, нельзя существовать вне глобальных экономических трендов, вне понимания того, что происходит в мире. Поэтому, когда возникла возможность, мы впервые сотрудничаем с Energy Consulting, и я думаю, что мы все уже настроены на продолжение этого сотрудничества. Когда возникла возможность раскрыть данную тему на таком достойном, высоком уровне, мы, конечно, поняли, что для наших членов это то, что интересно. И несмотря на это, я удивлена сегодняшней явке. Вот, для нас это знак, что тема актуальна, и тема около этой темы тоже актуальна, поэтому мы будем продолжать работать. Еще раз спасибо нашим коллегам-партнерам. HLB International Energy Consulting, а всем участникам сегодняшнего семинара и членам АССА я желаю продуктивной первой половины и второй тоже уже на работе. Спасибо вам большое.
Thank you very much, Vera. As I said, we are now going into the 4 short presentations. And as we said, the first presentation will be on what's happening in the US at the moment. And I think we're all fascinated, if I speak for myself, I'm fascinated what's happening in the US at the moment. And I think we have a fantastic opportunity to hear now firsthand from somebody who's very knowledgeable in all that. Our partner from the US, please.
Good morning and thank you. What a wonderful city. Charm, culture, people. Thank you for making us feel warm here. Anyway, I have one rule. It's my rule. Make sure your phones are on. You don't want to miss the next Trump tweet. Keep us informed. Change. Change. Some good, some bad. Change is constant. We each live in a world of change. Change, if we don't keep up, will be left behind. It's no different than in the tax world. Taxes, tax policy, and the like change our daily lives. While you may not see it that much in Russia, global taxation, rules in different countries change our lives. Look at change in technology. The iPhone, all the information we have at our fingertips. Look at change, not just from a business standpoint, hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis. Change we must deal with. Look at some of the major companies that have changed our lives. Uber, again, the iPhone. Change, borders, sanctions. We live in a world now that is much smaller because of technology than ever before, but it's much more complex. Who disagrees? No, it is just mind-boggling. Change, the new change, politicians, court systems, the way we do business is all about change. We as business people must live in a much smaller world now and look at opportunities where the failure to identify opportunities is risk. And with that, I invite you to come to the U.S. and consider doing business. We are very fortunate in having offices in Boston, New York, and D.C., and Orlando to deal with a lot of Russian clients that have come to seek opportunities in the U.S., either from a real estate or distribution thing or technology. The world is open. Don't be afraid of Trump. He only has a Twitter. So what we see in the world is disruption. It's not just change, it's the disruptors that make our lives very interesting. And many people respond to disruption in different ways. All I have to say that if you're in the biotech industry, if you're in machine learning, if you're in retail or distribution, it's all changed. Not overnight, but it seems like overnight. 10 years, 15 years, it's all different these days. And that's why the world is open to what you want to capture. Again, US, Russia, just the beginning. Think about some of the changes at the top. Companies in 2017, Airbnb. Somebody had that idea that failed to capture. Lyft, you compete with Uber. Somebody probably had that idea too. So the point is, change can be managed to your benefit. Billionaires, now I have your attention. It's right there for all of us to capture. By working together, by working with HLB, by taking your ideas or your business opportunities overseas, you can expand your opportunities. So I actually chair the International Tax Committee at HLB, and it gives me the fortunate opportunity to travel the whole world. And we're all the same. People want to cross borders, either for pleasure or for business. But having the power of people makes everything you need at your fingertips. So even though we're a network of international accountants and tax people, consultants, we can help you reach out and create that millionaire opportunity. So how do you manage change? You're changing locally, when you're changing globally. It's all there. That's it's a change that we need information on, how to report. Governments have these rules on FATCA. Has anybody dealt with the FATCA rules from the U.S.? Sweeping around the globe, frustrating, but information again puts you at an advantage. We have cross-border activities that you can capture if your business wants to expand. Transfer pricing, if you are currently global, transfer pricing is currently the #1 tax issue that most companies have to deal with. All countries have some kind of transfer pricing rules. So what do you want to ask about Trumponomics, or now being recoined as economics? This is all about the tweet. Doesn't matter what we're seeing in the world, but the U.S. is going to be a player, fortunate or unfortunate. But I can tell you from a Trumponomics standpoint, we don't have a wall at this point in time to follow U.S. policy. We have barriers that are being put up, but no wall yet. We don't have a balanced budget to run the government, at least in the long term. How do we operate month to month, day to day? It's very scary. We don't have a change in Obamacare, our healthcare system. We're trying. Well, what you're seeing is Trump has a lot of, I don't want to call them enemies, but not necessarily, people with different opinions. And so to push his policies is going to be very difficult. And there might be a prediction here that within the next 4 years, Trump gets nothing done, except tweeting. He's attempting to secure borders. Good, bad, we don't know. Temporarily, it might be good. Immigration, migration, all impacted by policies. But one thing that we'll go through quickly here is tax policy. He is trying to drive tax policy to make America a little stronger in the global markets. Clearly, you guys make decisions and would rather work or operate in a country with a lower tax rate. The U.S. has one of the highest tax rates we've seen. So tax policy is on his initiative. Will he get anything done? Probably not. Will we get a rate reduction? Maybe. It's just a very difficult situation right now, where internally, Trump is not only battling with the other politicians, and now he's battling with sports figures. They're tweeting against each other on what is the right way to treat American culture. And then we've got the issue of sanctions. We're trying to drive policy. Does it work? Does it work? I don't know. You probably feel more than I do. But again, it's in his policies for some reason. He thinks he's got this national. But I am honored to be here to talk about Trumponomics. What we're going to do is run through some interesting slides, only a handful of slides before I turn it over to the next speaker. We are the land of opportunity in the U.S., but also the land of complexity. Over 7,500 taxing jurisdictions in the U.S., from the federal government to local governments to city taxing authorities. That makes it very difficult to operate. But again, if you want to come to the U.S., see Dave Steen, he'll get you in the front door and you'll be able to set up your business, no problem. Growth. We're all starving for growth, each and every country. But if you look at a recently published chart, the world is expected to grow at about 3.5% in 2017. Not so bad. Predicted for next year, 3.8. Look at the U.S. Last year, or the 17 year that we're going to end, we're going to be at 2.1% growth. Predictions, 2.5 next year. The Eurozone, 1.7%. Hopefully grow to 1.9%. These are not big numbers, and they're going to be hard to achieve. China, 6.3, dropping to 5.8. These are important stats to have, either to find the risk or the opportunities. And then Russia, good for you, some growth coming your way, jumping to 1.7 next year. You guys are driving that growth. So, part of Trump's policies, can the U.S. be more competitive? Can we achieve a 3% growth? Well, right now it's very difficult to do that. These drafting plans are being rejected by his counterparts. He is coming up with a tax plan that's being rejected. But there are some fundamental changes that we need to see in the U.S. The tax policy has to be fair and simple. If I was to stack the rules and regulations on this desk here, the book's probably piled aside, detailed. And that's just the basic rules and regulations. It's not the court cases and interpretations. We want to be more competitive in global markets. Why would you come to the U.S. if you have to pay a 35% corporate rate? And that's just the federal rate. Many states have a 10% rate. Do the math, 45%. Then there may be excise taxes. Come to the U.S. and work. You'll see on the maximum rate, 40% for federal. Could be another 12% for individuals. Very expensive. So that's why we need tax reform. So, will Trump succeed again? To be determined. We are not seeing any significant legislation. A lot of proposals, a lot of debate, a lot of tweets, but we're not seeing any significant change right now. We do need this reform in taxes. We do need, like most countries, improvements to our infrastructure. Trump wants to focus on jobs. What moves in the economy? Jobs. What moves in the economy? Wages. So we're trying to create wealth through jobs. And how do we get jobs? We bring business back to the U.S. How do we bring business back to the U.S.? Fair and simple. Lower tax rates. Appealing to other countries like you that we do have a land opportunity. What we're seeing, though, in the tax policy is whatever is coming out may be watered down. So while we may get a rate reduction, it may not be fair and simple. If we get something that's fair and simple, the rates may remain high. We have one rule. We must have a balanced budget. So what happens with tax cuts? The balanced budget goes out the door. We need jobs. We need more employment. We need more taxes to pay for those tax cuts. Like I said, we've got the highest corporate tax rate. We have the most complicated international tax system. Our tax rules say any U.S. citizen, resident, any U.S. company will pay tax on their worldwide income. Worldwide income. In the corporate world, we have double tax. Corporations pay tax, and then the after-tax proceeds are taxed again as a dividend. North of 60% of corporations make face. So why do we need reform? Why do we need a rate reduction? We are not competitive. Some stats. In 1980, the worldwide tax rate was about 39%. The U.S. at that point in time was the fourth highest in the world, with a rate of 38.91% today. So since 1980, you can see that there's been about a 47% reduction in non-U.S. corporate rates, where the U.S. has remained steady. Now, these are interesting stats, because when you look at incentives and deductions, and the effective rate that most U.S. companies pay is well below these numbers because of loopholes. Many countries don't have loopholes, but our tax code, our regulations have a lot of loopholes in it. So it does get kind of complicated. We come to the U.S. I'm hoping my research is right here. We compare the U.S. with Russia. Where would you want to invest? Simply from a tax standpoint, where would you want to invest? Absolutely. So we have to predicate our enticement saying we are a land of opportunity. Look at some of the top 50 movers and shakers in the corporate world. A lot of them are based in the U.S. or started in the U.S. It's even cheaper to pass away here. As many people say, there are two things certain in life, death and taxes. But it looks like it's cheaper to die here. So as I said in summary here, as we wind down here, why Trump's policy and tax rate and tax changes is important is because we need to draw the attention to businesses around the world. Can the U.S. become a tax haven? Maybe. Will jobs come back to the U.S.? Maybe. You and I are smart business people, so despite what we have out there as far as sanctions, complexities or rules, we will find our way around that. We will create opportunities for our staff and create opportunities for our customers. But we need to know the rules, we need to work together, we need to stay current on what happens on a daily basis. Information is power, information is valuable. So again, the largest industrial nations have rates less than the U.S. That's why we need tax change. So one of the principles on developing a good tax policy, well, Trump never really revealed his policy when he was running for office. But as time has gone on, we have determined that a good policy is simple. It's got to be competitive in the world. Lower rates are key here. It's got to help the middle class. It's got to create relief for the middle class and not the rich. Everybody attacks the rich. They don't pay their fair share of taxes. And then this is the big one. Bringing money back home into the U.S. to pay for infrastructure, to pay for additional investments. How do we bring this $3 trillion back home? Remember I said it was a double tax. So bringing money back from your country, or Singapore, or the Far East, or any of the 100 countries that U.S. companies have investments in, could impact local economies. A true disruptor. Be ready. And he's not saying there's going to be a tax on us. He's saying we must bring the dollars back home. Bring them home, spend them in the U.S. Big impact. If you're really, really curious on what Trump's proposals were and what we're trying to see, well, what we'll see is no longer what you see here. The latest edition is a corporate rate of about 20%. And an individual rate of 35%. Still very expensive. Why? This is not describing the state and city and local taxes, which can run another 2%. So while we're trying to open up the doors, the states make the entry back into the U.S. very difficult. So with that said, it's all about rates. It's all about fair and simple. It's all about creating jobs, and we need jobs in the U.S. So come invest. You'll have fun in the U.S. Great opportunity. And that's me. Now, I guess we're going to go on to the next speaker. And I appreciate your time, and I'm sure you'll have questions later that you can ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Fascinating. I forgot something to say, which is normally like something like, please switch your phone off. Dave is the first person I ever seen in an audience who said, keep your phone on. So thank you very much. Our next speaker is Caroline Wilton. She's from HLB Menzies in the UK. And she will talk from first hand about the experiences of Brexit and what the consequences of that will be for doing business in London.
So, Brexit. Yeah, I'm absolutely privileged to come and speak to you today. I actually just want to extend my thanks to Energy Consulting. They made my trip here. It actually changed my view on Russia. Certainly, what you see in the UK press, it built an image of what you expect when you come to Russia, and that has been completely changed. People are very friendly. I love the architecture, and actually, as I was saying to Gerald earlier, Moscow and St. Petersburg are now my top two favourite cities. So thank you very much for the experience. So a little bit about Menzies. Menzies is a firm based in London and the southeast of England, and we're part of HLB International. I myself focus on a huge amount of international work and actually have a number of Russian clients, so that's where my focus is. I'd also just like to introduce Anatoly. Anatoly, if you just stand up for me a moment. Anatoly heads up our Russian desk and is fluent in Russian, so I've been with Menzies 20 years, and I head up our manufacturing sector, and I also look after audit and advisory clients, so that's what I spend my time doing. So, I will, good, right, excellent. What I want to do today is explain a little bit about how we got to where we are, Brexit, today, and it's a huge topic. It still is remaining a huge part of the UK news, but also around the whole of Europe. It's certainly an interesting time for the UK. There is uncertainty in the market, and nobody likes uncertainty. It does make people nervous, it stops people investing. But what I think we're starting to see things take shape. Theresa May has put forward, I think, a very positive speech in the last week, and I think we're starting to see some way forward with the negotiations. It's obviously still a long way to go, and I think it's going to be a difficult time. We talk about soft Brexit or a hard Brexit, the Canadian model, the Swiss model, so there certainly is still a lot of clarity to be fleshed out as to what the end deal will look like. So, what I will do is give you a little bit of background as to how we came to have the Brexit vote in the first place, and then the importance of the European Union to the UK economy. I will also go through a few potential opportunities as to how I think actually Brexit can work as an advantage for the UK economy and doing business more globally, and I'll sum up. So, back 40 years ago, 1973, was when we originally joined the European community. The Prime Minister at the time was Edward Heath, and he had understood that the UK's per capita GDP relative to the EU founding members had been declining since the war from 1945 to 1972. So looking for that new impetus of growth to try and bring that back into the UK economy, we perceived that joining the EU would be a beneficial way forward. In fact, at that time it was called the European Community, and it was very much thought that this would be an easy way to get growth back into the economy and to grow the future of the UK. In 1987, the Single European Act was signed, and that removed a lot of the barriers to trade, to the movement of goods, people, services and capital, and in fact, that's when people became a little bit unsure as to what they had voted for. They understood in 1993, the EU, as we know it now, was formed. The UK has actually always been a very awkward member of the European Union. We've asked for rebates, we haven't joined the euro, we get special concessions. So I think from an EU perspective, we're not a very favoured member anyway, which makes things difficult. From pressure from the UK population, in 2013, Cameron announced that if he was to be re-elected as Prime Minister, he would hold a referendum on whether we should continue to remain a member of the European Union. And to be honest, this was the principal reason he was re-elected in 2015. In February 2016, he sought to go and speak to the European Union to try and renegotiate our terms to make it more favourable, more palatable for the UK. Unfortunately, his deal he negotiated wasn't strong enough, and so when we had the vote, we exited. We voted actually 52% in favour of an exit from the European Union. It's quite an interesting thing, but why did we vote? It's a close margin. There were actually 51 million people who could have voted at that time, but in fact only 65% voted. And when you look at the statistics, broadly, the people that were involved in 1973 from coming into the European Union are the main people that voted when we decided whether or not we wanted to remain a member. And it's that we didn't have the younger people voting that caused, I think, why we have reached a verdict of 52% voted to leave. I think if we held the referendum again today, we'd actually probably end up with a different result. One of the most interesting things was the day after the referendum, the most Googled term was, what is the EU? Bit late. So in March 17, we triggered on Article 50, which is part of the European legislation which enables us to start the process to leave. We've got 2 years from March 17, so March 19 we will leave the European Union. So the negotiations start there. So the importance of the EU. Trade. Currently, we have no trade barriers, so we can send goods, import goods, export goods with no VAT, no duty, no customs excise duties. So that is very powerful and is obviously extremely important. And with an outer trade deal with the EU, we may be working under World Trade Organization rules with the EU, which would make us less competitive. In fact, we export £240 billion to the EU countries, which is about 12% of the value of the British economy. And our total export market is £550 billion, so that's 44% of UK exports actually going to the European Union. Conversely, importing, we import £390 billion from EU countries, which is 53% of all our imports. So in fact, actually, we import more than we export from the European Union. Employment. Why is employment important for the UK economy and that relationship with the European Union? We currently have this free movement of people, of workers, which was one of the founding principles of the European Union. About 7% of the UK labour market, about 2.2 million people, are actually EU nationals. They cover key industry sectors like healthcare, education, hotels and restaurants, the financial services sector, and manufacturing. And in fact, many of these people have come from Eastern Europe and fulfil lower skilled jobs that UK workers are not prepared to do, but are highly skilled and actually are fulfilling a much higher skilled role than they are being paid for effectively. In fact, I'm a member, as part of my role as head of manufacturing, I work with EEF, which is a national manufacturing organisation, and we've been working with the EEF members for all manufacturing clients to find out how important the ability to retain the use of those EU workers is. And it's 25% of that is going into projects that benefit poorer areas of the UK, and a large percentage, 15%, is going into research and education and innovation, which is actually a key core concept for the UK. We are very much innovators and designers coming up with new ideas. Also, a considerable amount goes into agriculture and fisheries as subsidies to help British farmers who are constrained with EU competitiveness. They can only fish certain amount of quotas, and actually having that subsidised is very helpful. And then legislation. At the moment, it's very easy to do business in the UK with the EU. It's the single legislation. So transactions are seamless between members, and there's consistent laws on farming and fisheries, environmental regulations, transport and energy. And that greater cooperation across the European Union makes it very easy to do business. So that's the importance of why the European Union is very strong and very important that we remain friends with the European Union. But I do believe there are potential opportunities as well. So, with exiting the European Union, trade, okay, I said we may revert to World Trade Organization rules, but let's remember I said only 44% of goods are exported to the EU market. 56% are actually going to countries outside of the EU. So that gives us the ability to be more flexible in creating trade deals with other countries, Canada, India, Australia, Russia maybe, and that will increase our competitiveness. It's easier for us to negotiate a trade deal with one country and dealing the UK government with Canada, for example, rather than us trying to get 28 members to agree to one set of rules for a trade deal. And we will have access back to the Commonwealth countries, the likes of India, Australia, Canada or Pakistan, where these are growing countries, and actually if we're able to import more efficient from food producers more efficiently, for example, that will allow the UK's wages to go further, which will keep inflation low. We're a huge service-based country, and in fact a lot of the UK economy is driven from our reliance on the financial services sector. And it's been noted that there may be talks of the financial services moving to Frankfurt or Paris. I don't see that as a real risk, and I haven't seen any signs of that, I must admit, because we've got the infrastructure, we've got the language, we've also got the skills and the workforce. So I think maybe there'll be some shift, but I think ultimately London will remain a key financial service sector. Employment. So there is some nervousness for EU workers in the UK. What will happen to their employment status? Will they be allowed to stay in the UK? And I can understand their frustrations, because I don't think Theresa May has been very clear on that, and that's certainly a concern that we even experience at Menzies, where we have a number of EU workers that are suffering with not having that clear idea of where things are going. But as I said before, we are hugely reliant on those people in the economy. They make up 7% of our workforce, and actually to say and close the door and say you must go home, it's just not going to happen. The economy suffers so much. So I believe that there will be no immediate changes. In fact, I think it's been suggested that there will be a 2-year period, and people can then apply for citizenship or visa, whatever the process is. But actually, if they're paying into the UK economy and they're bringing some value, then I don't see any reason why we would not want to encourage people into the UK market. I think the benefit, though, is that we can have a more rational and planned approach as to who we actually bring into the UK. So we don't have to just find jobs for EU migrants that have come into the UK. We can actually pick the best skilled labour, which may be from Australia, maybe from Canada, maybe from Russia. It doesn't matter. So I think there's a real opportunity there. Finance. So one of the biggest advantages of leaving the EU will be that we will not have to pay this £18 billion some parts of Southern Europe, unemployment is as high as 20%, and in fact the UK at the moment has the lowest ever unemployment rate. So we're a very stable economy, and we also have a very stable currency. Also, we'll be able to spend the money that we save on the projects we want to invest in, and not be led by where the EU says our money should go. So we can continue to support agriculture and fisheries, but perhaps put more into our healthcare budget, which is actually on strain. The EU's economy has stalled, and I think that was evident from Dave earlier, just saying that 1.7% was the anticipated growth rate next year. So again, I think we feel that we can set ourselves on a higher growth curve than that by leaving the European Union. And our corporation tax rates are actually only 17%, so considerably lower than many other countries around the world. We also offer extremely favourable tax reliefs for R&D and innovation, and in terms of country, we hugely pay a lot of money into scientific research, and it's very well regarded by the revenue and customers. So finally, legislation. Well, if we're no longer governed by the EU, we will get a return of our sovereignty, so we will have more control over our destiny. And I think this is what the British public really wants. They want control over the decisions that are made for the country and in the country's best interests. We've got strong political stability, and we've got a strong legal system. So it's definitely still a country where people would want to invest, in my view. So in summary, I think initially, yeah, we're up for a tough couple of years. There may be some loss of business, there may be some loss of good employees, but longer term, I think there are a huge amount of new opportunities. Trade deals, we can recruit selectively. Investing in the UK has always been a safe market, it's competitive, and it's a sophisticated place to do business. We are an island, and we've always traded innovatively. We have many friends around the world, and we've always traded globally. So I think we can create our own destiny, make quicker and independent decisions. So in summary, whilst potentially initially I was shocked to think we had made this decision, I can see the opportunities now, and I think in the longer term this will be a very positive move. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I thought it was really good, and I think many people here in the audience are now looking forward to this bilateral UK-Russian trade deal. So that would be very interesting to see. So thank you very much for that. A good coffee break as well. Half of the investment of being here for you, obviously, is to meet with other people. So I hope that really worked well for you. And I saw a lot of lively discussions and a very long line for the coffee. So for these people who have not been able to get some coffee, sorry for that. Our next speaker, I'm very happy to introduce her. It's a small change in the program. Our next speaker is Coco, and Coco is from HLB, and she is responsible for our Asian region. And she will also explain herself why she is here today. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gerard. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and it's my great pleasure to be here speaking to all of you. This is my third time visiting Russia, and I'm very happy to see the new developments, and also it's very interesting to hear people speaking Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, and some Chinese dialects. On my flight from London to St. Petersburg, and on the street in Moscow. Yesterday, my tour guide told me that 60% of the tourists visiting Moscow are Chinese. So today, we are going to talk about the business opportunities in relation to China. I'm the Chief Regional Officer for HLB in Asia Pacific, and also I'm the head of our Global China Service. 7 years ago, HLB became the first mid-market accounting network to launch Global China Service, which is to facilitate the two-way trade and investment between China and the rest of the world. As the winner of the 2015 Best Global China Service in the World, we are working closely with business channel partners, such as government agencies, law firms, banks, insurance companies, to provide one-stop shop experience to Chinese companies to support their long-term growth in new markets. So China Council for Promotion International Trade is one of the key business channel partners that we have been working with globally. We are working together in more than 10 countries already to support the Chinese outbound, and now we are working on our relationship in Russia. We appreciate very much the support from the Chief Representative of China Council, CCPIT, who is also in charge of the International Chamber of Commerce of China in Russia, who is Mr. Xu Jingli. But unfortunately, he is not able to make this speech because of the urgent mission from China. But it's still our great honor to have Mr. Qiu Tianchi, Assistant of the Chief Representative of the China Council for Promotion International Trade with us. And Mr. Qiu later will join the panel discussion to share with us his view. But in the coming session, I'd like to share with you our observations on the opportunities with the One Belt and One Road and AIIB. And hopefully, this is inspirational for us to identify synergies and opportunities for collaborations in Russia, in China, and beyond. My office is based in London. I am based in London, and I travel to many countries in North America, Latin America, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East and Africa. Whenever I go and whenever I speak to business partners, China is becoming a buzzword. Yes, indeed, China is the second largest economy in the world, and it's also the biggest exporter, the second largest importer, the biggest receiver of foreign investment, and now we are talking about China as the second largest source of foreign investment. There are more than 6,000 Chinese companies set up in 150 countries, and more than 1 million employees overseas are generating $1.5 trillion of sales. If we look at the trend of a Chinese outbound investment, at the very beginning, it was boosted by the state-owned companies investing in natural resources in developing countries. And later, we observe a shift of a merger acquisition, greenfield investment into new markets, into diversified sectors driven by private-owned enterprises. But now is the time for us to look at opportunities of a One Belt and One Road and embrace those opportunities. Why? Because there is a game changer. The Chinese outbound investment is always driven by the country's needs. The need for diversified investment, the need for higher yield of assets. It's driven by the company's needs for new markets, new technologies. And of course, it's driven by the China-led policy initiatives. such as One Belt, One Road, AIIB. So from 2012 to 2015, Chinese companies are investing in those top 10 sectors. And real estate and tourism is on top of the table, counts more than 20% of the Chinese outbound investment. So in early 2016, economists forecasted that food and agribusiness, advanced manufacturing, real estate, and financial services will be the future growth sectors for China. However, there was a game changer. Since July 2016, China started reviewing its outbound investment strategy, and there are some adjustments of the sectors that China is encouraging or restricting. So some traditionally popular sectors like real estate and tourism is under restriction. So for instance, commercial and residential properties, theme parks, hotels, and these projects, they are restricted now. And casinos, gambling-related investments are banned. But there are also sectors now encouraged by the Chinese government. For instance, technology. Anything to do with the Industry 4.0, anything to do with automation, robots, yes, encouraged. And anything to do with resources, mining, trade, cultural exchange investment, and food and agricultural business sectors, yes, they are encouraged. So Chinese foreign investment is still growing at an average speed of 10% per year, and China still invests only half of the level of the Japanese overseas investment relative to the respective GDP percentage. So there will be still potential of a Chinese overseas investment. It will keep growing. But what will happen to the future Chinese investments if 20% of the investment from real estate and tourism is looking for some new areas? So will these encourage new sectors, especially in relation to One Belt, One Road, to be the future growth industries? Infrastructure, energy and mining, construction, telecom, and transportation. We are going to talk about the Silk Road today. And this piece of art is discovered in Nepal, dated back 450 to 600 AD. And the scientists discovered the Chinese silk fiber and the Indian lac dyes in this piece of art, which were not locally produced. So this is one of the early evidences of the ancient trade road from China. So the Silk Road was established during the Han Dynasty in China between 200 BC and 1500 AD. The Silk Road linked China with the Roman Empire, allowing trading of goods, sharing of knowledge between the ancient cultures of China, India, Persia, Arabia, Greece, and Rome. People traveled and traded along the routes for centuries. The ancient Silk Road brought benefits to China, Central Asia, and Middle East, Africa, and Europe. We hope this spirit of a free trade and constructive cooperation can be recaptured in the new age through One Belt, One Road. In 2013, the Chinese President Xi Jinping launched the One Belt, One Road initiative to focus on improving and creating new trading, links, and business opportunities. Through One Belt, which is the Silk Road on the land, and the One Road, the Silk Road on the sea. This Belt and Road initiative is passing through more than 60 countries along the way, which is involving 60% of the world population and the collective GDP equivalent to 1/3 of the world's wealth. So the implementation started in 2015, and in 2016, China already invested $11 billion in 48 countries along the routes. Let's take a closer look at the Silk Road in relation to Eurasia and Russia. The One Belt, One Road is for prosperity for the underdeveloped part of China, particularly the West China. Is to bridge the gap between the very wealthy East Coast to the underdeveloped West part of China. It is for greater connectivity and the development along the routes through movement of goods, services, information, and people, and exchange of culture. It's for the greater integration between China and the neighboring countries, and of course, it's for the efficiency through reshaping and enhancing the supply chains. One Belt, One Road aims to be mutually beneficial. The region is aimed to be the outlet of the domestic overcapacity of China and the Chinese investment. It will be the new markets for goods and services, not only from China, but only for all the countries, also for countries along the route. And of course, One Belt, One Road is positioned to be the provider and the solution of China's energy security and the diversification of import sources and routes. The land routes, the Silk Road on the land, is twofold. First, is to build a Eurasia land bridge. It's starting from the east coast of China, reaching out all the way to Rotterdam in Western Europe. And it will also develop some corridors involving different countries, but with different focus and unique positioning. So for instance, the Eurasia land bridge is a major logistic pathway. It's faster than the sea transport, and it's cheaper than the air routes. So China now is already working with Russia, Kazakhstan, Poland to reduce the cost of customs clearance. China-Mongolia-Russia corridor is mainly looking at the high-speed rail and road links. In 2015, China already signed a series of agreements with Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, which worth more than $25 billion to look at the high-speed rail, energy infrastructure, aerospace, and industry parks, providing financial services such as RMB settlement. And the China Central Asia, West Asia route is an important gateway for oil and natural gas, running through the world's longest gas pipeline to Xinjiang region in China, all the way from Arabia Peninsula through Turkey and Iran. So there are a lot of opportunities, so many things going on. How about the funding? World Bank forecasted that by 2020, the need of Asia's infrastructure is $730 billion. However, World Bank and Asia Development Bank together could only provide $30 billion. So in 2014, China launched 2 new financial institutions, AIIB and the Silk Road Fund, in response to the substantial financial gap for the infrastructure investment in Asia. One Belt, One Road is not a one-way traffic. It facilitates the two-way trade and investment between China and the countries on this route. One Belt, One Road is intended to support the development of all regions and provinces in China. And there are new opportunities for international companies, Russian companies as well, to gain access to a wider China market and also to a third market in step with China's trade opportunities and outbound investment. Many Western regions, as you can see highlighted in blue, will be focusing on infrastructure and urbanization projects and expanding the international trade opportunities. And some underdeveloped Western provinces and regions with excellent natural resources and food and agricultural resources, such as Xinjiang, Gansu, Qinghai, and Ningxia, they will need to upgrade their technology and improve the productivity and efficiency. So this is also a message for the Russian companies and also for HLB colleagues coming from Europe and North America. Will you and your clients play a very important key supporting role in the next stage of China's development? There are so many opportunities in each of the provinces in China, and here's the list of the core provinces driving the One Belt, One Road initiative. HLB has 7 member firms in China, more than 30 offices, and more than 4,000 employees. Today, I'd like to highlight 3 because in Xinjiang, Sichuan, and Guangdong, we have member firms over there, and they are happy to work with us to share the opportunities. I'd like to highlight Xinjiang, which is really a driver for the One Belt, One Road initiative, especially in relation to Russia. As you can see, there are a lot of projects going on with Xinjiang, and I understand from our Chinese partners who is flying from Chengdu, and there are direct flight links between even inland China with Moscow. And Xinjiang is the core area of the land-based Silk Road and is the natural hub for the routes to Central Asia, Russia, and Europe. And one key message is that Xinjiang is positioned to be the future financial center of West China. Sichuan is one of the most important provinces in the southwestern part of China. And this is a province which is linking the Silk Road on the land and the Silk Road on the sea. And we have member firms based in the capital city Chengdu, which is referred as the Silicon Valley of China because of the ICT sector and the logistics and the financial sectors. And we have 2 delegates coming from this office, so please feel free to reach out to them if you would like to share with them your thoughts. One Belt, One Road. The ambition is high, the complexity is also high. And for international companies tapping into this opportunity, there are many business models to follow, from joint partnership to technology transfer, from EPC, engineering, procurement, construction, to PPP. HLB, as the the professional service provider. We are very happy to work with all the clients and prospectives looking into this area with solutions, including planning, due diligence, risk management, transaction services. One Belt, One Road. This is a potential global game changer with a long-term impact at least for 10-20 years worldwide. It is a continuation of China's current policies and economic development, and it means opportunities within China and outside of China with a long-term impact on the supply chains. The blueprint of a One Belt, One Road is to connect the vibrant East Asia economic circle with the developed European economic circle and involving all the countries on the route with a huge potential of economic development. HLB's Global China Service, our vision is to create opportunities to achieve win-win. And our blueprint is to bridge our resources in China, in Russia, with the rest of the world, and to create opportunities for each member firm within HLB, for each client serviced by HLB, and each business partner working with HLB, who are willing and able to embrace the China outbound opportunities to achieve win-win. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Coco. Bringing art into a discussion like this, I realize it's always awkward, but the picture which Coco presented of 600 years before the birth of Christ, already doing international trade. So it shows that globalization is not from this period of time. It has always been, and most likely then it will always stay that way as well. So thank you very much, Coco, for that. And very interesting to hear how China nowadays is leading this way into the internationalization of global business. Thank you for that. Our last speaker is Frank Schauf. Frank is the CEO of the Association of European Businesses in Russia. And as that, probably the most important organization supporting and helping European companies in Russia. And for matter of disclosure, Frank and I know each other quite well. I'm the chairman of the auditing committee of the Association of European Businesses. So if you find my story slightly positive for the Association of European Businesses, that might be so. It's a wonderful organization to be in, and I would certainly promote all of you, also as Russian companies, to become a member of that. But Frank will talk about that in much more detail on this thing. Frank.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Frank Schauf. I'm the General Director of the Association of European Businesses. Just in short words, because some of you might not know the organization, we represent more than 500 mostly larger, mostly European corporations who are doing business in Russia. We represent, for example, basically all the European energy companies who are working with Russia. This certainly is one of the most important activities between the European Union and Russia. We represent close to 100% of the Russian automobile market from the side of the manufacturers. Some of you might know the statistics which we do every month on the Russian car market, for example. And certainly we are also representing a number of other industries here in Russia. Now I got, let's say, the task to say something about the European Union and its relation to Russia. Will Europe lead the way to a new cooperation with Russia? Okay, it seems to be a pretty difficult task to give an answer to this, and I will try to come close to it at the end of what I want to say. But generally speaking, certainly we have to say that the EU and Russia are extremely important for each other. First, obviously, we are neighbors on the European continent, and I have to say that certainly also, in spite of every problems which are there, a lot of cooperation is ongoing between the EU and Russia. And somebody who is, I think, more intelligent than me some years ago said that certainly the number of problems that we have is the other side of the medal of all the cooperation which is there. Because certainly you can only have such a number of problems when you're close to each other and you're interacting, let's say, in a positive and sometimes also, let's say, in a negative way. But let's look at some let's say details with regards to that cooperation. I mean, in spite, for example, of everything what is being said and written in the press, the gas supply to Europe from the side of Russia is stable over decades. So Russia has about 1/3 of the European gas supply. And although, let's say, the Western press is not very positive about this, although the US government, for example, come later to this, might not be positive about this, anyway, the gas supply to Europe is stable. And this is an important thing, and this is also true for the oil supply, which from the other point of view means that the income which Russia is generating through the trade with the European Union is also very significant because, as all of you know here in the room, it's in the largest share of Russian trade with the rest of the world is oil and gas and other commodities. Now, let's look at some other figures. For example, the EU, and I understand that most of us and most of you would certainly think in the national framework. So Gerhard would mostly think in the Dutch, and I would mostly think in the German framework. But if you look at the EU, certainly nowadays the European Union is an economy in itself, and it has, let's say, a significant share in the world economy generally. It is the largest trading bloc, and is by far the largest trading partner of Russia, with about 45% of Russian trade ongoing with the European Union. If we look into the foreign direct investments which come from Europe, it's even more pointed, because much more than 50% of all foreign direct investments into Russia come from European sources. Now, you can always say that there is Russian money being repatriated, it is true, but this is also true, let's say, for example, for the American statistics. In the end, you come to a situation where the Europeans are dominant in the external economic relations of Russia. Now, if we look more into detail, you have very large investors into several sectors from the side of the European Union. You can see it in the foodstuff sector. Danone, a French company, is the largest manufacturer of dairy goods here in Russia. Nestle has, I think, about 10 factories here in Russia, supplying Russia with ice cream, coffee, chocolate, and other nice things. The car sector nowadays is dominated by the French, with Renault being one of the largest investors, or the largest investor in the car sector, after they have bought a dominant stake in AvtoVAZ. Volkswagen, for example, is very important here on the Russian market, and others. If we look into energy, BP is, generally speaking, the largest European investor here in Russia with its stake in Rosneft. Other companies like Enel or E.ON have bought capacities in the electricity generation some years ago, and this is ongoing activities which we see. The peak of EU-Russian trade has been reached in 2012, and already in 2013 we saw that the trade between the European Union and Russia has been shrinking, and certainly big changes have appeared in 2014. Now, certainly the most obvious change here has been political changes, because you have the situation around Crimea, you have the situation around eastern Ukraine, you have sanctions being imposed from the western side against Russia, from Russia against the West, and this certainly is important things which have been ongoing since then. But nonetheless, we always have to keep in mind that European, but also other, for example, American companies are continuing their work in Russia. So even if you look in the press, you might get the impression that everything is, let's say, going down the drain. We have to say certainly that the activities of foreign companies, and especially of European companies here in Russia, have been pretty stable, and I'm not aware about, let's say, one or two perhaps, but beyond that, larger companies having left the Russian market in the past few years. And this certainly is something that is important to have in mind. We have seen that beginning from 2014 till the beginning of this year, the trade with Russia from the side of the European Union has contracted significantly. But let's say, in spite of all the speculation, which you also find in the press, it doesn't have to do anything, let's say mostly, it doesn't have to do anything with sanctions. Because if you look into the Russian trade with other parts of the world, including China, for example, in absolute figures, it has also contracted. So that this means that basically the changes in the Russian trade mostly have to do with the oil price development, with the devaluation of the ruble, and certainly with imports becoming very costly and therefore contracting in the years after 2013, or beginning already with 2013. And this certainly is also important to see that mostly this contraction in trade is not dependent on political matters, but it is at the end, let's say, a purely economic thing. This is certainly a little bit different if you look into the foreign direct investment, which I come to a little bit later. But what we also see with regards to the trade has now grown significantly again at the beginning of 2017. Sanctions are in place, nothing has changed, but the trade between the European Union and Russia has grown again, which has to do with the stabilization of the oil price partially. It has to do with the stabilization of the ruble rate towards the euro, and it has led to a situation where, for example, imports of machinery into Russia have jumped dramatically. So the trade between the European Union and Russia has grown by about 25%. At the beginning of this year in comparison to what was the situation in 2016. And this is certainly a very important factor. Now, if we go a little bit into the foreign direct investments, here certainly the situation looks different, and here we have to say that foreign direct investments are very sensitive with regards to the political conditions, to the geopolitical conditions that might be around. You can say certainly that also the foreign direct investments into Russia peaked before 2014. It's similar with regards to the trade, but then, let's say, on the background of the Ukrainian crisis, on the background of other geopolitical uncertainties, the foreign direct investment into Russia has been nearly exterminated. So if you look into the statistics of United Nations, you can see that from 2014 till 2015, 80% has been lost in terms of the volume of foreign direct investments into Russia, which is certainly very significant as an indicator, and which certainly is also very problematic if you keep in mind that before that happened, Russia was in the top group of recipients of foreign direct investments globally, and most probably, if you would look at it per capita of the population, Russia most probably was number one or number two in the world in receiving foreign direct investments before the situation has changed dramatically. Now, perhaps I say 2 or 3 words about China, because one part of the discussion here in Russia after the situation became tense between the West and Russia was to have a closer economic cooperation with China. But I have to say, it might be frustrating for the colleague who has spoken before me, I don't believe into the China let's say, perspective. Because, I say, for several reasons, for cultural, for historical reasons, for geographical reasons, I think that Russians are not so keen on doing business with China. And let's say for political reasons, I mean, the Russians see themselves as a great power, and they are a great power, but in a cooperation with China, nowadays they would be the junior partner. The Russians mostly don't like to be a junior partner in such cooperation. Second, in order to say it clearly, the Russians, I'm a historian by education, and you used history in your argument, so I use history in my argument. The Russians see themselves as the bulwark of Europe against Asia. And I mean, if you look at what the name Vladivostok means, it means, let's say, something like govern the East. So you are, let's say, the masters of the East. It shows certainly to a certain degree how Russia has become a great power, and I think this is deeply enshrined also in the mentality of the Russians. Here we have a lot of Russians sitting in the room, you could certainly contradict, but you can exemplify this perhaps by the fact that if you would ask Mrs. Ivanova on the corner in Vladivostok, even if her family is living there for 5 generations already, if she would feel herself as a European or an Asian, she would always give the answer that she's European. And I think this is a very, very good illustration for, let's say, the cultural orientation of Russians. And therefore, certainly, I think that the Chinese situation, the Chinese relationship towards Russia and vice versa is changing. China is becoming more important on the Russian market as well, but I would rather see it as a normalization than, let's say, as a big reorientation of the Russian population, of the Russian economy towards China. Now, I have to say, in my business, as representing European companies in Russia, the situation has become pretty complex with sanctions, which were introduced in 2014. And this certainly is one of the major topics that we are talking about. And this is certainly a topic which is of importance for a number of companies. But perhaps I also illustrate the significance of sanctions for European companies by what we did. We do that every year in 2015, because we ask our companies every year how they feel on the Russian market. And in 2015, we would ask them how many companies would be formally falling under sanctions. And the answer of 80% of our member companies was that they would not be touched by sanctions formally at all. So this means 20% would tick the box, we are subject to sanctions. My assumption is that at least 1/3 did not tick the right box, because they would think that they fall under sanctions, but in reality they don't. Now, if you look into the sanctions, you have say sanctions on military goods and dual-use goods. Military goods was not so important anyway before the imposition of sanctions anyway. Second, dual-use goods, you have certainly companies like, let's say Siemens as an example, they have a portfolio like this, but dual-use goods are shared like this, so they don't export any dual-use goods anymore, but it's not so significant. Then you have certainly, which might be important, investments and technology with regards to offshore projects in the oil and gas sector, but given the oil and gas price at the moment, nobody will invest into these projects anyway. And then you have the last part, which are the financial sector sanctions, which are certainly the most important ones, and which affect also, this morning I had a meeting with our members from the banking business, which are, let's say, not so funny meetings at the moment, because the financial sector has been very hard hit by the financial sector sanctions. But generally speaking, let's say most of the companies are not really touched by the sanctions. But now, let's say with the decision of the US Congress, which was taken before the summer break, the situation becomes certainly much more complex. And the situation, speaking to our member companies, for example, but also analyzing myself, the decision of the Congress and its potential implications mean that the uncertainty around activities of European companies is getting much bigger, and this certainly might have might create problems for EU-Russian economic relations in the future, because what you have to see is that US sanctions, generally speaking, have an extraterritorial effect, so they do not only target US companies, but they also target foreign companies being active on the US market. And we have also to see, as I said at the beginning, that by far the largest group of companies being active here in Russia are European companies. So by definition, every action being taken against the foreign economic activities of Russia will hit the Europeans more than the Americans. Now, let's say also in the EU, and I come now, let's say, closer to the demand of solving the problems between Europe and Russia. In the EU, certainly, we have heard it before, you have with Brexit, but also with such things like Dutch elections, French elections, German elections on Sunday. You have, let's say, a rather high degree of uncertainty. And it might be frustrating to hear, but when I go to Brussels from time to time and speak to people in the EU Commission or in the European Parliament, I have to say that Russia is not at the top of the agenda at the moment, because there are lots of other things being discussed inside the European Union and around the European Union. And certainly the uncertainty that you have in the EU around the political development here seems to me an obstacle rather to finding a solution, because people are concentrating on other questions. And this certainly will say lead to a situation where I do not foresee at the moment a dramatic change in the political relationship between the European Union and Russia. But again, I mean, up to date, this has not led to a situation where things have become really, really bad in economic terms between the EU and Russia. The most important thing, I think, at the moment, which is upcoming and which might really create a problem, are in fact the US sanctions. And I'm very interested to see certainly how the home policies of the US are defining the foreign policy of the US at the moment. I'm certainly very interested to see how the US tries to promote liquefied natural gas on the European market by trying to block Russian gas supply to Europe. This is all not nice. This is all not, let's say, looking very positive. I always call myself a pragmatic pessimist, because I always work with the worst case scenario, and I'm very happy that it doesn't come so. But at the moment, I have to see that. I have to say that certainly with the US sanctions, you used the word before in your presentation several times. This might be a game changer, and this is something, let's say, which I don't like to say as a conclusion. But thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Frank. And as a, how do you call that, a realistic pessimist, a pragmatic pessimist, and for me, as a romantical optimist, I picked out one thing, which was 25% growth in trade this year. So, and these are good things. So, thank you very much for that. This concludes our 4 presentations. This also concludes the work which our speakers have done, because now the floor is yours. And I would really like to challenge you to use this wonderful amount of expertise to challenge them on the issues which your company might have. So if you now, as a Russian company, has a subsidiary in the UK, what can you do? And here we have Caroline, and she will be able to answer you these questions. You can also ask the questions in Russian if you would feel more comfortable, and then we have our friends from the translations who will then help us with the translation. So language cannot be an obstacle for not asking questions. So who can I give the microphone first? Who has a question for our panel? Mr. Cho will join the panel as well. So if you have any questions on on Chinese relationships. Please. Okay, questions? Anybody here? This side? Over here? Any questions? Questions over here? Yeah? Okay.
Can I ask a question to Caroline? I'm from the EU, and clearly UK is now a opponent. What do you feel that the outcome will be? I mean, there are 2 years set for the negotiations. The negotiations really are just about money right now. The EU refuses to talk with the UK before the money is settled. The negotiations of trade, customs, and do you really, how is the feeling in the UK?
Thank you. It's a difficult one because with any divorce, I think it all comes down to money. So I think the feeling in the UK is very much that we want to get on with negotiating. And yes, I understand that money is an important factor. But on the other hand, it's also difficult to negotiate money when you haven't also got the terms set out as well. It's quite difficult. I think Theresa May earlier last week in Florence put forward a very sensible and flexible proposal that we would look to negotiate to fulfil our financial obligations to the EU. I think that's very important. But also that we would work to try and get a 2-year transition arrangement in place, which would be very helpful, I think, for trading, employees, and things like that. So I think ultimately it's positive, but yes, the money is an initial obstacle at the moment. But I think we are hopefully sending the right signals to the EU that it's important to us to continue to trade with the EU. The EU is very important to the economy, vice versa. So it is important we continue that relationship and those talks. And I think we'll get that.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol. Any more questions from the audience? It's my privilege to be as a facilitator and to have the opportunity to ask questions as well. So I would like to have a question for you. In your experience, if you look at Chinese companies dealing with internationalization, and if you're looking at Russian companies dealing with internationalization, where might you see the differences? And perhaps you can also see where perhaps Russian companies could learn from how Chinese companies are doing it, or perhaps the other way around. How would you comment?
嗯，谢谢大家。我认为这个问题，其实在我们这个日常的这个工作中，我们也经常会去考虑它。Thank you for the question first. And in our daily life, during the business life, I would say that we're quite exposed to this, to both Russian companies as well as Chinese companies. 因为其实国际的这个贸易投资的这个过程，也是一个两国的经济文化交融的这么一个过程。During the investment, I would say both Russia and China can learn from each other because it's a mutual interactions. 从90年代开始呢，我们中资企业就开始进入这个俄罗斯市场，并且就是形成一种规模化的趋势。Since 1990s, Chinese investors has entered the Russian market and has enlarged to a scale. 同时，由于这个历史过程中，我们对俄罗斯本身的这个政治文化，还有它的这个，包括它的法律法规的特点的不了解，产生了一些问题，也使得我们这个企业在当地的发展曾经产生过很多的各种各样的问题。 due to some historical reasons, we've suffered from some difficulties when we entered the Russian market from Chinese side.
但是随着我们企业更加标准化的这样一种经营的方式，以及愿意去了解在俄罗斯是应该怎么样来做这个经营活动，这样的一个意愿，以及我们这个政府包括我们商协会对企业的帮助，我们中国企业在俄罗斯的发展也开始越来越规范化。
As we got a better understanding of Russian culture, Russian business etiquette, as well as the Russian business environment, Chinese companies are more adapted to the investment area, as well as investment atmosphere.
从这个角度来说，俄罗斯它健全的法律体系，以及它规范化的标准的流程，以及它独有的专门的一套经商的这样一套流程，是非常值得我们中国企业来学习的。
Chinese companies should know some standards from Russian company, since Russian companies are kind of more standardized in some area.
同时，有的时候我们也会向俄罗斯企业来介绍我们中国这种包容开放的这样的一个环境，因为我们非常希望能够跟这些外资企业一起合作，来达到共同发展的这样一个目的。
At the same time, we would also like to introduce our Chinese companies to the world, to the foreign enterprises, foreign investments, because we are quite open to all kind of ideas, all kind of business preference.
我认为在这个全球化的这个背景下面，我们各国的企业互相学习交流，来达到更高效、更安全、更有效，产生更加好的经济效益，这是一个不可避免的趋势。
Since we are now in such a global community, it's good for us to learn from each other, to build a mutual, to reach mutual benefits among all the enterprises in this world.
同时，我们国家政府以及我们商协会，包括借助像 HLB 这样的会计律师事务所的帮助，来为这些企业做到更好的交流，做到消融他们之间文化经济以及这个历史上面的这些矛盾，来让它达到更好的发展，也是我们势在必行的一个做法。
With the help of HLB, our organization, CCPIT, would like to help all the Chinese companies to build a mutual understanding between the companies around the world.
谢谢大家。
Thank you all.
Thank you very much for that. If there's a question.
Hello, I have a question about China also. Could you please tell me how long does it take to set up a foreign subsidiary in China now? How easy it is, how difficult it is, and how long does it take? And also, does a foreign subsidiary have to set up a partnership with a Chinese company, as I know it was before, or something changed in this respect? Thank you.
First
of all, thank you for your question.
根据我的了解，我们中国现在是非常欢迎国外企业来我们国内设立子公司、投资发展。
As far as I'm concerned, Chinese government as well as Chinese companies are welcoming all the foreign investment in China coming to China.
但是我们中国它在这个各级地方政府对于引入外资的这个条件和设立的这个门槛都是不一样的。
Due to some specific conditions, which is different from province to province, some conditions or some benefits for foreign enterprises are quite different.
当我们的外资企业想要进入中国市场的时候，首先要考虑到 他所要进入的这个地区范围对他这个行业的接纳性是怎么样的。
At first, we have to consider which kind of areas if this particular company want to enter, and what kind of, let's say, the business environment for this particular sector or industry.
比如相对于这个高精尖产业来说，关于农业和食品行业企业，它的进入的这个门槛就相对更高一些。
For example, like this kind of high-level sector, high-level industries like agriculture and foodstuff, food factory, it's got the admission for such industries going to be quite high.
所以说，当大家希望进入中国市场的时候，首先要考虑清楚你需要进入的是中国哪个区域的市场，因为中国和俄罗斯一样是一个幅员辽阔的国家。
So when it comes to your question, which the first thing I would like to ask about which province, which area you want to enter first, because China is a big country.
中国的各个区域的这个发展差异化也非常的大。
The region, the development of each region are quite different.
在大家希望进入中国市场之前，我希望大家能够跟中国的相关的海外商协会，像 CCPIT 这样的机构进行建立一种长期的联系，以方便大家了解进入到哪一个区域才是大家最好的选择。
So when it comes to your question again, I would like to suggest before you enter the Chinese market, you could come to us, come to CCPIT, and we're going to provide some specific suggestions for your, let's say, for your business.
同时，大家也希望大家能够关注中国各个区域对于外资企业的这些优惠政策，因为这对大家的这个发展是有非常大的帮助的。
I would also suggest you guys to have a look on the different kind of policy benefits for different enterprises, different sectors or different industries when you consider going to China for your business.
谢谢大家。
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I saw another question over here. Yeah.
I have a question for the Chinese audience. The first one is a more general one. Can you tell us what's the time span in which the initiative of One Belt, One Road is going to be implemented? And the second question is, what is the place of Russia in this global initiative? Because, as you know, in the press, there is a lot of discussion how the major cargo flows will go on land. Because geographically, if we talk about the cargo going from China to the west and the other way, whether Russia can be well positioned for transit flows as well, or primarily for the cargoes that would go to Russia solely. So what would be the place of Russia in this One Belt, One Road initiative?
Good question. Thank you very much.
好的，非常感谢。
Thank you very much.
刚才这个第一个问题，如果我没有理解错的话，意思是指“一带一路”的这个策略是什么时候开始实施？
For the first question, if I'm not wrong, you were asking when was the OBOR initiated, right?
事实上
implemented.
我们国家的“一带一路”的这个倡议是由2015年正式开始的。
The OBOR initiative was implemented in 2015.
事实上，现在在大部分的相关国家的相关的大型项目都已经是正在进行中，并且某些主要项目已经完工。
We have started quite a lot project along the way, along the one OBOR.
比如说，在肯尼亚的这个蒙内铁路将于10月份进行正式的试运营中。
For example, there's one railroad in Kenya, and which is going to be implemented in October.
以及我们的这个50多条中欧铁路都已经在运营中了，其中包括与我们俄罗斯有关的三条 由广东、青岛和大连直达莫斯科的中欧铁路。
There are 50 railways from between Russia and China. For example, there are three. Between Russia and Europe, and there are three which are linking China and Russia from Qingdao from Qingdao Guangzhou to Moscow.
如果说要给这个“一带一路”定一个时间点的话，我们现在此时此刻正是“一带一路”最如火如荼的时候，是处于一个高峰期。
If you want to set a timeline for OBOR, I would say now, currently, is the best time for us to implement such projects along OBOR. Has already finished along OBOR actually. And how about your second question, sorry?
Yeah,
俄罗斯在这个“一带一路”这个过程，它是属于一个核心的一个国家之一。
Russia is regarded as one of the most important countries along OBOR.
从这个国家层面的角度来说，现在我国的对俄罗斯的经济政策，大部分都是围绕“一带一路”政策展开的。
From a national perspective, our national policy regarding Russia is surrounding around OBOR policy initiatives.
因为俄罗斯是具有一个非常庞大的一个市场，而且俄罗斯政府本身也非常愿意跟中国来进行这样的高层次的经济合作。
Because Russia is a huge market, and we have quite good relations with Russian government from the Chinese government side.
我们众所周知的喀山高铁项目就是“一带一路”的这个标志性的项目之一。
It's widely known that Kazan Railway is one of the most important projects regarding OBOR.
以及我们一些能源企业在俄罗斯和当地的能源企业进行合作的一些项目。
And some industries, and some energy industry, some projects regarding energy industry.
从地域上来讲，俄罗斯也是中国通往欧洲的必经之路，所以我们的许多的中欧铁路都是途经莫斯科的。
From a geopolitical perspective, Russia is like a hub between China and Europe.
而且俄罗斯的市场随着这几年，在俄罗斯政府和俄罗斯企业和人民的共同努力下，也趋于一种上扬的趋势。
And according to recent, let's say, business environment, Russia and China is, let's say, the overall environment is getting better.
所以，对于中国政府和中国企业来说，大家对俄罗斯的市场非常具有信心，也愿意与俄罗斯人民的这个企业和政府间合作，开展更多的对话。
We are quite confident in the relation in, let's say, business cooperation with Russian enterprises from Chinese business side.
也希望通过与俄罗斯的这些合作，来辐射中亚地区的这些国家，来促进这些“一带一路”项目的更好的发展。
And we hope that through the project with Russian business, or let's say enterprises, we hope we can build a long-term relationship. Let's say in the region of Central Asia.
谢谢您。
Thank you.
Thank you. Question over here.
I'll try to speak English. The theme of this conference, seminar, is very, very interesting. And I think this theme couldn't be sanctioned. Because I appreciate, we are a small training firm in such matters as governance, risk management, and compliance. Yes, and I very appreciate American input
in this very important thing. And your question was what we should study if we should go to American and British markets. Certainly, such knowledge, such know-how in governance, risk management. And this is a very useful format, framework for our discussion. My question is that our theme is global economic crisis and international business. What do you think next year? What influence should be from slow, no slow growth of interest rates in the United States on the world economic and financial markets? And personally, I'm very grateful for your very interesting report concerning tax reform. It's better understanding of our global objective settings and risk management and compliance. So, we know that recently interest rates grew slightly, but impacted gold market already, maybe other markets. And what do you think about the next year? Because 10 years passed, nearly 10 years passed from previous economic crisis, and we are habitual, used to think that every 10 years economic crisis is renewing. Yeah, understand. So it's very important for our objective settings, risk management.
Lawmakers are doing the right thing. What happens over the next 12 months, I think it's going to be more of the same. You're going to see a ton of Twitter, you're going to see threats of war, you're going to see war embargoes, and it's only a life at this point in time until we're open and unified. And I think we are unified, we just need to have one big voice saying, enough is enough.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, please.
Я задам свой вопрос по-русски китайским коллегам. Скажите, пожалуйста, что лежит в основе быстрых темпов реализации строительства в Китае и реализации проектов в том числе? Какие технологии вы используете? Основные факторы, которые влияют именно вот на быструю подготовку проекта и ее реализацию с точки зрения управления, с точки зрения менеджмента.
I'd like to ask my question of our Chinese colleagues. What are the key drivers of your success in implementing the reforms and the other actions that have put your economy on such a fast track? From the standpoint of management techniques, and maybe methods in a broader sense that you use to be so effective in doing, in achieving the objectives that you set before yourselves.
首先谢谢您的问题，这个问题提得非常的好。
Thank you for the question. It's a great question.
事实上，我们中国政府非常的关心中国企业在海外发展的情况。
Actually, Chinese government are really concerned about Chinese enterprises overseas.
多年来，我们中国政府一直在提倡这个鼓励中国企业走出去的发展战略。
It's been years that Chinese government are encouraging Chinese enterprises to go out.
包括像我们走出来的企业，在这个中国政府对这些在俄罗斯的企业提供了非常大的政策上面的支持。
In Russia, Chinese government has already help them a lot from a policies perspective, from on a policy basis. 在一些具有一定规模的大项目的促成过程中，政府对两国政府对这个项目的支持也是不可忽视的。
Like for example, like some big, great projects are sponsored, supported by both government from Russia and China.
中国企业在走出去的过程中，会在极短的时间内就形成政策、法律、金融方面的一体化的这样一个服务的团队。
For Chinese, in the process of going out, Chinese enterprises, Chinese companies are often used to be integrated with each other on a legal business basis.
我们的这个银行，金融银行，还有律师事务所，还有一些基础的服务，包括交通物流这方面的企业也会非常及时的跟进。
Like financial institutions, banks, and some companies in energy sector will be introduced in the market.
在“一带一路”发展战略的支持下面，我们去了解，去与当地的这个政府进行交流，我们去尊重他们的文化，尊重他们的日常习惯。
With the support of OBOR initiative, our Chinese companies are willing to understand the foreign culture in a foreign market and better interact with each other in a foreign market.
我们是在以共赢互助的基础上面来做这个海外的企业的发展工作。
Our goal is to reach mutual benefits.
所以我们在每个国家所遭受的阻力也比往常少得多。
So we're going to suffer some, let's say, some forces from the foreign, let's say, foreign countries.
我们企业在当地发展的时候，不单单是为了自己的利益，也是为了发展当地的经济，为了帮助当地的人民过上更好的生活。
Well, actually, we're somehow impeached from the other countries, but we'll try our best to reach the mutual benefit between each other.
根据俄罗斯政府官方调查显示，这几年对
According to a survey issued by Russian government, yeah.
这几年俄罗斯民众欢迎中国人的欢迎程度已经达到了70%。
More and more Russian people are welcoming Chinese enterprises to enter Russian market, and this figure is 70%.
这也跟我们中国企业在俄罗斯多年的努力是分不开的。
I would say it's because, let's say, well, this situation is because of our, let's say, efforts in Russian markets.
所以我们一直相信，只要我们抱有共同的发展自己的这样一个目的去做，那么我们这样的合作也是可以长久的持续下去。
We believe that if we constantly cooperate with each other, we are going to reach more mutual benefits.
所以说，如果说硬要说中国企业在海外发展有什么诀窍的话，那么我认为这个诀窍的关键就在于尊重对方，认为对方跟我们是处于一个平等的地位。
The core techniques of Chinese enterprises to do business abroad is that we put, let's say, both sides on an equal basis to respect each other.
那么我们企业在海外的发展就不是就一定能够达到一种长久高效，并且对双方都是有益的。
So that we're going to reach an everlasting, trustworthy, and this kind of good relationship with each other.
谢谢大家。
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Yeah, there's 2 questions over here.
I also have a question for our Chinese colleagues.
We have met such an interesting trend last years as the growth of number of Russian students in Chinese universities. We see that Russian young people are really interested to get higher education in China. Could you give a comment, please? Which Chinese universities are so popular for Russian students and why? And how does this trend, I mean the growth of number of Russian students, affect Chinese-Russian relations and business?
非常感谢您的这个问题。
Thank you for your question.
虽然我不是这个教育学方面的专家，
Actually, I'm not an expert in educational field.
但是我在中国上学的时候也接触过来中国学习的俄罗斯人。
I've been exposed to Russian students who came to China during my undergraduate times.
事实上，在中国有非常多的这个专门对外国留学生开放的学院。
Actually, there are quite a lot of institutions open to, let's say, foreign students in China.
通过一些政府的项目，这些学生也可以去对方的国家进行学习交流。
Through some governmental support, it's kind of easy for students to go abroad and vice versa.
在中国，像北京、上海等地的大型的高等学校都会开设专门的外国语学院。
Some universities based in Beijing or Shanghai, they have this kind of foreign language institution or faculty for foreign students and Chinese students.
以及国际关系学院等。
And some so-called international relations, faculty of international relations.
事实上，对于来中国学习的俄罗斯青年来说
，for Russian students who come to China.
选择哪个学校是其次的，关键在于你能否熟练地掌握中文的各种要素，以及熟练地了解中国人的生活工作习惯。
I would say the key is to understand Chinese culture, Chinese language, and let's say some Chinese language, which is of most importance.
在今后的工作中，你能不能够利用自己的学到的、掌握的东西，去消弭中俄两种思想之间的差异产生的隔阂
？And try to use what you've learned at school to fill in the gap between China and Russia, probably to some extent.
我们在日常工作中也会经常接触到一些需要掌握中文的俄罗斯员工的中资企业。
We've also noticed that there are quite a large number of people, Russian people actually, who's in native Chinese language.
根据他们的反馈，虽然有许多的俄罗斯青年留学生，他们的中文说得非常的好。
There are quite a lot of Russian students who can speak really good Mandarin Chinese.
但是他们并不能够按照像我们所说的像中国人一样去思考，所以在日常交流中，除了语言这样产生的障碍，我们的思维习惯、我们的工作习惯所产生的障碍也是不可忽视的。
But there's also a problem, even though they can speak really good Mandarin, because they can't really understand Chinese culture, and there's still some barriers between each other in terms of communications.
在中国的大学中，会针对国外留学生开设一些关于中国历史、中国的政治文化方面的教育。我认为这也是赴中国的学习中文的俄罗斯青年所需要重视的东西。
There are some courses like history, culture in some Chinese universities which are open to foreign students, and I think it's going to be helpful for those who want to learn something in China and study in China.
对中国人来说，他们是非常欢迎国外的青年来接受中国文化，所以对于俄罗斯青年来说，选择哪个大学并不是非常的重要。
We are welcoming all the students from, let's say, other countries to China. So basically, it's not a question regarding which university you're choosing.
事实上，咱们中俄两国政府有这个学生交换项目的学校都是非常优秀的。
With the support of Russian and Chinese governments, all the programs linked with each other are really good.
我们也会一直欢迎大家前往中国
留学。We are sincerely welcoming all the students from Russia to China. 谢谢大家。Thank you all.
Thank you very much. One more question here.
Вопрос к тому, кто мог бы ответить. Китай планирует перейти в расчетах за нефть с доллара на юань. Как отразится это на долларе, процентах?
I have a question for those who can answer this question. China plans to switch from dollars to the yuan in settlements for the oil. How will this influence the exchange rate of the dollar in the foreseeable future, percentage-wise?
Well, who of the panel would be interested? Dave, would you like to do a projection?
It's going to be favorable for somebody.
And clearly that somebody who knows is going to be incredibly rich, because if you can make your investment decisions based on that now, so I do understand why you want to hear the answer to that question. Perhaps you can answer as well.
我也只想说，这不是我们在座的各位所能够决定的。Actually, it's not up to us.
Thank you for your question. We have time for one more question. Yeah.
I have a question to all members of the panel, if possible. There are a lot of discussions of blockchain technology now. How do you see its future development and opportunities for international companies and companies of Russia?
Any expert on blockchain? Frank? No? No? Not on blockchain. Anybody else? How would you see that? Is it? Would you like to say something? No. So I'm afraid your question is a little bit out of topic, but it might be a very interesting topic to organize next seminar for that. So thank you for your question. If so, then I will take the privilege of being the facilitator to have the last question. And my last question is to Frank. Frank, if you look at European companies in Russia at the moment, on the one hand, and we see these trends which we have been talking about on the other hand, how do you see that European companies are trying to weather this storm? And how do you think that Russian companies can actually learn from the strategic implementation of that by European companies? Can you comment?
It's to be a very complex question at the end. But first, I have to say that when the whole situation came up with sanctions, I was extremely nervous. Was probably all extremely nervous as expats working in Russia. But in the end, I mean, the situation has stabilized, and the companies have adapted themselves certainly to say different conditions. They have taken into account the regulations. They have adapted to the economic contraction which we saw in Russia, which was not so much certainly dependent on the sanctions, as I said before. Now, how to let's say to give a proper answer to you, it's difficult for me. But I think what might be important for Russian companies, generally speaking, if we talk about internationalization, I think we talk about internationalization here because you want to, let's say, get them out of Russia to other areas. I think, and this has happened over time, and I think this is going to continue also under the pressure, let's say, of the globalization and of, let's say, the pressure to be more efficient, etc., etc., that Russian companies certainly have to have a look at how Western, not only European, but also American companies are managed, also Chinese companies are managed, and how they are looking at other markets. We see a discussion here in Russia with the devaluation of the ruble to have more export being done into other areas of the world, which is, I think, a good thing, but which has not only to do with the ruble making goods cheaper, but it also has to do with the knowledge how to sell things abroad. And I think here the Russian companies have still to learn a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I realize this has been a very intensive morning. We have tried to condense 4 of the major trends which are affecting your businesses as well. And we try to condense them in 4 presentations and a panel discussion. And I realize it's a very ambitious goal of us to see what we have learned today. But perhaps we can, from my point of view, a couple of findings which I have heard. So my first takeaway is, and I'm very happy that we have so many people here also from outside of Russia, is that although for many, in many foreign press, Russia now is being depicted not in a very favorable picture. It's not exactly the flavor of the month. But with every of my foreign colleagues who I speak, they are only incredibly impressed. So my first takeaway would be is that don't be over optimistic in that. And every time somebody comes here from outside, they actually see how many possibilities there are in Russia. That's one. So it also means that there is still possibility for foreign direct investment outside of Russia into Russia. That's one. Secondly, we have heard a lot about China. And the potential there is enormous. But we have to be careful as well, and some of the speakers were clear about that. Will that potentially really work? I was a very good football player, but I never made it. In the end, potential is not enough. We need to work on that. And I heard a lot from the Chinese side where they said, we want to do this, and I can see that. It needs two to tango, also from the Russian side. How can you receive these Chinese investments in Russia, and you can do something with that together? So that would be my second takeaway. My third takeaway is, what can Russian companies learn from how Chinese companies are doing their internationalization? And there is something which I heard a couple of times, which I'm not necessarily seeing on the Russian side, and that is cooperation. I think, and if I'm not only looking at Chinese companies, but also if I look at how European companies are doing their internationalization, for example, out of Europe into Russia, they work together, for example, with the Association of European Businesses. So I think one learning there will be for Russian companies in their internationalization to learn from each other and to cooperate, especially when you're outside and share that kind of information. And my last takeaway is, because I know that many of your Russian companies, you already have your asset protection, and you are able to make sure that your profits can be invested outside of Russia. You have that structure, and it was already mentioned that if you look at the relationship between Russia and China, between Russia and Europe, you would see that there was a lot of investment from Europe into Russia, and from Russia into Europe. But to a large extent, that was also repatriated money. Money which had been earned here in Russia have been expatriated, and now this money is stuck outside of Russia. And I think your challenge now is really to understand where can you invest that money, if not in Russia, then in what other places. And that is especially where we come together as an international network of audit firms, where we can help you, also in other countries and other jurisdictions, to help you to make that investment decisions. For me, it has been a fantastic morning. We had expectations, but our expectations have been highly overachieved. So many people here today. We had a very good discussion. Very good people in the panel. Thank you all very much for your contribution. And with these words, I would like to thank you all very much for coming here, and definitely hope for seeing you next time. Thank you very much.